Breaking news just into our newsroom in the past 15 minutes. A 33-year-old Columbus woman has been indicted for 4 murders and an attempted murder.
The Attorney General saying Rebecca Auburn met men and for sex and drugged them so that she could then rob them. 10 TV's Lacey Chris in studio tonight with more on this breaking story. Lacey.
Yeah, the Attorney General calls Auburn a serial killer. Now, a Franklin County grand jury indicted Auburn today on 4 counts of murder, 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, and a series of other charges. All of those cases happened between December of 2022 and June of this year. Now, investigators believe there could be additional victims that may exist. The Attorney General says this investigation is ongoing. Auburn is being held at the Franklin County Jail. Live in the studio, Lacey Crisp, back to you.
All right, thank you, Lacey.
She's facing a series of additional other charges, including robbery. In court, they did not address bond. She's going to be held until her next court hearing. Columbus police are still investigating this case, and they really want you to call the number we have on the bottom of your screen.
We have an alleged serial killer, ex-worker, streetwalker, prostitute in Columbus, Ohio. And this is a crazy story, a sad story, because see how many individuals lost their life, right? There was someone out here pleading with police from Jump Street, trying to tell them, I know who did this. I have evidence. I got a solid lead you guys can follow, because her father was one of the victims of this just soulless, evil woman who, as you guys heard, this happened in 23. She's been found competent to stand trial. They did the whole competency thing. People often get that twisted and fucked up, confused that, innocent because of insanity or whatever, and competency is 2 different things. Competency hearings happen before trial can even take place, where if their defense or someone in the court process is like, this person ain't right, can they even stand trial? If they are found incompetent, no trial takes place. The individual is kept in a facility. If the jury finds not guilty by reason of insanity, that's a whole nother thing. You know what I mean? So this trial is going to happen. This woman has been sitting behind bars for a while. We'll go over the indictment, all the different charges aside from the murders. Again, this is a alleged serial killer, ex-worker. It's not something you hear all the time. But this one woman, Kristen Akin-Crockett, her father was killed allegedly by this woman. Her father was Wayne Akin, postal worker, had been a family man, and, throughout life, went through some things, got into drugs later in life. He had been diagnosed with fatigue syndrome and got into doing drugs. And I wonder if that's similar to, I have an autoimmune sickness. I wonder if that is an autoimmune sickness. You know what I mean? Very often, when you have sicknesses as such, you can be given pain meds, and anyone who's went down that road, it is dangerous. This is something we know, but what a lot of people don't know, they assume anyone just out here abusing drugs just is like a base head off top, or you wanted to abuse drugs. Very often you can take painkillers as directed and still end up hooked, a junkie, more or less. That's a whole nother discussion and all that, but get in the comments and let me know if you know anything about that. But let's get into this story here. 42-year-old Kristen Akin-Crockett of Columbus, Ohio, went to the police, telling them, I have evidence. I got someone, informant, someone whose work and information that they gave is very pertinent to this case. And she has kept, as far as the media goes and on a national level, this person's identity is secret. You know what I mean? Because their, life could be on the line, and, the streets are involved in this case and everything. And when this individual was first given her information and she was saying, hey, come down to the police with me, she was like, listen, I can't, I got warrants. You know what I mean? It was someone who was in the streets seemingly as well. but had a heart and knew that this woman's father was killed and didn't want to see it happen to other people. But again, the police dropped the ball and didn't listen to her, and more lives were lost. As you see the major headlines here, police blew her off, she said. So she tracked down the woman now accused of killing her father and 3 others. Months before her arrest, a tipster led Kristen Akin-Crockett to the woman charged with killing 4 people with fatal overdoses of fentanyl in Columbus, Ohio. So ain't that crazy? This woman was out there meeting with individuals to party, get high, have X or whatever, and was de-rugging them and killing them with the Fenty Wap, man. One of the most dangerous, flucked up, it's so crazy, like I was talking about with the D-rugs and the opiates and painkillers and stuff like that. It's something I've talked about in other channels and numerous videos, how it was just a cycle that played out into where we're at with the fentanyl and the trank and all this other stuff out there. But check this out. On a May afternoon 2 years ago, Kristen Akin-Crockett found herself in an unusual situation. Standing in an alley north of downtown Columbus, Ohio, the church administrator was dressed in black and staring at a rundown single-family home. Akin-Crockett, 42, had heard that a woman in the area identified only as Becca was responsible for multiple killings, including her father's. And you see the headlines: Ohio woman charged with serial killings, quote unquote, allegedly met men for X before fatally derugging them. Don't buy X in Ohio. It ruins lives and could cost yours, Ohio AG David Yas said. And this was in a press release that they put out. Now, Rebecca Auburn is accused of robbing and fatally derugging victims on January 5th, April 1st, April 13th, and April 13th and June 17th this year. This is back in 23, I believe. According to joint statement about the quote-unquote serial killings. Check it out. This is what David Yas, the AG, said. Don't buy X in Ohio. It ruins your life. It ruins lives and could cost you yours. And he says these indictments are a result of our close collaboration with the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation. Chief Bryant said the Columbus Division of Police remains dedicated to ensuring justice for all victims and their families affected by the actions of a single individual. And you know what's so sad about this is, here it is hitting the press, different people, prosecutors, law enforcement entities making these statements like, oh, we all collaborated. They did, okay? But you had a woman who personally was involved in this, lost her father, and you blew off what she was saying, and it didn't have to go like this. You know what I mean? I understand law enforcement does their job the way that they do, but so often they want to look down their nose at people. And I'm not saying that's what happened in this situation. You know what I mean? They very well could have just looked at this daughter like she was grief-stricken and paranoid or whatever, but she had the ID of this woman, and it says, where are we? The Central Ohio Human Trafficking Task Force, formed under Yas, Ohio Organized Crime Investigations Commission, received info that a woman was allegedly meeting men for X in Northeast Columbus, then dosing the quote-unquote Johns with D-rugs in order to steal their possessions. During the investigation, detectives from the Columbus Division of Police, which leads the task force, and BCI special agents who also serve on the task force, connected Auburn to several overdoses and robberies. These include victim 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The victim 1 is an attempted OD. That was on 12/3. And then the rest are 1/15, 2023, 4/1, 4/13, 2023, and 6/17, 2023. So the first victim didn't die. You know what I mean? They survived, but she attempted to do the exact same thing. As part of the same investigation, Auburn previously had been charged on September 11th with aggravated battery, felonious assault, murder, corruption of another with drugs, trafficking in drugs, and the illegal manufacture of drugs. She has been in the Franklin County Jail since the later charges were filed, as you saw in the opening of this video. So, like I said, they're sitting here taking all the credit for all this, but they don't mention this woman's story, and it's a shame, you know, because right away, Kristen Akin-Crockett, again, daughter of one of the victims, Wayne Akin, right, told police something suspicious, you know what I mean, because she knew something wasn't right away. As it says, in an interview, Akin-Crockett said she had previously tried to get local authorities to investigate Wayne's Akin death as suspicious when she'd gone to her father's apartment after his body was found on April 17, 2023. She said she found women's shorts and underwear on the floor, and his phone and wallet were missing. But when she went to Columbus police with her concerns, an officer told her investigators had to wait for the results of toxicology testing to determine if Akin's death was suspicious. So I get that. You got to wait on it, right? But I mean, there's women's drawers and shorts on the floor. Things are missing. There's other people losing their lives in the area, other suspicious stuff like this going on. And then she has these text messages from someone who's in the streets who's telling her, listen, firsthand, hit her up on Facebook. You know what I mean? As she went on a vigilante mission, she says herself, that's what she calls it, and I would agree, you know what I mean, to the point where she tracked this woman down in the streets and was ready to tackle her and restrain her until police got there. And, you know, we've watched First 48, we've seen these shows. Why couldn't the authorities just take her word and see what she was talking about and at least check into this woman? Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like if they would have said, okay, we got to wait for the toxicology to come back, but in the meantime, let's see what you got, and convened with each other and said, you know what, this is some real ish. Let's go find this girl. Let's sweat her out, get her in the box and see if she'll talk, you know, or if she lawyers up. Frustrated, Akin-Crockett said she took matters into her own hands after someone reached out to her family via Facebook with info about his death and who may have been responsible for it. The tip prompted what Akin-Crockett described as a vigilante mission, as I just told y'all, that she said brought her face to face with woman authorities later identified as Rebecca Auburn, an ex-worker and alleged serial killer charged in October 23 with targeting at least 4 customers, including Akin, with fatal doses of fentanyl. So it's crazy, man. That fentanyl too, we've seen this stuff is bad, man. Always be like, it's just terrifying because this stuff, like, I don't know exactly how she was allegedly administering it. You know what I mean? If she was just like, I don't know, having it on her finger and rubbing it in a person's face or something like that. You know what I mean? Because if it gets in your mucous membranes, or we've even seen videos of police doing searches on people and getting the fentanyl up in their system and passing out and getting Narcan back, and it being such a strong dose, even after the Narcan wore off, they were back all out, you know. And this stuff could be in parks. It's just, you know, people throwing little baggies. It's terrifying. It's purely scaring. It's one of the worst drugs we've ever seen hit the streets. And fentanyl has been around for a long time medicinally, which I still feel is bad. Like I told you guys, I have a history with pain medication. Nowadays, I don't mess with it. You know, I take something similar to it that helps with my ailments or whatever and keeps me okay. But, you know, a lot, you just got to get out there and exercise and things like that. But it's all bad. But even the fentanyl on a medicinal level is no good. Like patches for years have been killing people, you know, that were prescription. This stuff, though, is a bootleg, highly toxic, poisonous version cooked up in little labs by cartels or coming from China. And it's just scary. Again, this is a whole nother story, something that, you know, I talk about all the time on my other channels. Anytime drugs come up nowadays, like, drugs have always been bad. They've always, you know, reigned terror and broken up families and messed people up for many, many years. And it's always been bad. You know what I'm saying? But it's just nowadays, it's just pure toxic poison out there. The drugs that are out there aren't even what they're supposed to be. They will kill you. You know, it's not like before people would be on drugs and maybe clean their life up. And like people are dropping like flies, dying. So anyone out there, if you're getting high or you know someone that is, it's time to either get yourself clean or try to advise and speak to and help the people that you love, that whether it's a friend, family member, or whatever, to put down the drugs and stop it and get off this ish, because it's just bad. You will die sooner rather than later. But here again, you know, we just talked about the competency. She pled not guilty, competent to stand trial. Her lawyer has not responded to requests, so a trial is going to happen. And Akin-Crockett said she eventually provided the information, which came in a series of text messages from a woman who said she'd known her father, Akin, to a Columbus police officer who investigated her father's death. But that was months later, Akin-Crockett said, after the June 17, 2023 death of a fourth person whom prosecutors charged Auburn with killing. So a life or lives were lost. The point is, she was trying to put them up on this info months ago. You know what I mean? Because who knows what other kind of fucked up crimes this woman could have been involved in that time that hurt people, you know? And it's like, why didn't they just listen to her? Okay, the toxicology's got to come back. We get that. But hey, she's got some real info for you. You know what I mean? Open your ears, listen up. And, you know, Ohio sex worker charged with fatally drugging four customers can stand trial. Judge rules authorities accused Rebecca Auburn of giving customers fatal doses of Fenty before robbing them. This is October 30th, 2023. Kristen Crockett, daughter of alleged victim Wayne Akin, 64, said she was relieved at the ruling so a fair trial could begin. None of us are going to be able to relax until all of this is over, she said in an interview Monday, but it's a step in the right directions. And, you know, this is where it comes to those texts, though, where the real pertinent info came from. And like I said, she went out on this vigilante mission, and she said she had two goals with her trip to the alley. This is where she tracked the woman down. She wanted her father's belongings back, and she wanted his killer behind bars. My intention was to tackle her and restrain her until the cops got there. So here's the text, right? A series of illuminating texts. The messages that led Akin-Crockett to the alley began May 6, 2023, a few weeks after Akin's death. Akin-Crockett declined to identify the woman who sent the messages to protect her privacy, but she provided screenshots of the text. Akin-Crockett described her father, Akin-Crockett described her father, a 64-year-old former postal worker who spent years battling drug addiction after a diagnosis of chronic fatigue syndrome, as a generous family man whom she became estranged from after his descent into illness and addiction. They began to mend their relationship in the years before his death. So, apologies, I got that wrong in the beginning. I thought that he got into the drugs later in life, but it seems it had benefited him as well as their relationship, but they were getting back on the right path. And, you know, you see, that's another thing about addiction. Obviously, the drugs can kill you, but we know how it goes in the streets. Everyone's just trying to get high. People will rob you, kill you for $5 or a bump, blast, a toot, whatever. You know what I mean? So the nature of Akin's relationship with the woman who reached out to Akin-Crockett was unclear, but they seemed to be friends. The woman wrote in one of the messages, "As you come over, you get to relax, take a shower. He feeds you and spends a lot of money, so you're happy. And all he wants is someone to chill with and talk to." So she's describing, you know, using, it sounds like, with the girl's father who was killed by this serial killer, ex-worker, soulless, heartless, she devil, you know, because that's the thing in the streets. There is people who are good people just caught up in the mix, and like she's describing, her dad would treat people right, you know. Obviously the way he was living wasn't right, but he still was treating people right, you know. She's like, he just wants someone to come over and talk to, and you know, he'll spend some money, and you know, he's one of the nicer people in the streets, right? In another message, the woman asked how Akin died. Was it an overdose? Because I know who did it. Akin-Crockett texted back that her father's cause of death wasn't clear yet. Authorities had not completed the toxicology testing, but she believed he may have been drugged and left for dead. Akin-Crockett mentioned that his wallet and phone were missing. Yeah, her name is Becca. She's been doing it to a few guys. In another text, she added, yes, she murdered him. This is the fourth person she's done it to, but she's going to get hers. Just wait. You can only do so many bad things before something is done back to you. You know, and that's the thing too, man. Word spreads in the streets. You know what I'm saying? This woman knew what it was, and thank God she reached out to the daughter, you know, who was in search of these answers, and helped break this case wide open. And where was I at? In Akin-Crockett asked her to report the details to the Columbus Division of Police, but the woman declined, saying she had warrants and couldn't go to jail or testify. But the woman provided Akin-Crockett with the name of an intersection with a camera that might have captured Auburn and Akin together before his death. So peep this, guys, how on point this woman was about it all. In the same text, the woman wrote, I'm guessing she wasn't smart enough to take his car, so she would need a ride back, meaning she's going to be on camera at the subway across the street from his house. Because we know nowadays there's cameras everywhere. And yo, listen, not to get off topic, off track, but the powers that be with satellites and all that stuff Snowden was talking about, like, man, they could solve every crime if they really wanted to, you know what I'm saying? But it's only used for matters of national security, right? Akin-Crockett asked the woman if she knew Auburn's last name. She didn't. She said, but she provided detailed instructions about where she could find her: an alley near East Weber Road in Atwood Terrace, about a half a mile from Interstate 71. When you see any females out, just pretend like you're family and you have some money for her or something, and they will show you right where she is. So a couple hours later, the woman sent another message saying Auburn was at a nearby corner store. She described her appearance: short, dirty blonde hair, shorts, and a pink hoodie, and said that she had Akin's phone and was speaking disparagingly of him. So this woman killed her father, allegedly. We gotta, you know what I mean, keep it a buck, but I mean, come on, it's clear as day. I don't think she has a shot in the world against this case. You know what I mean? She's taking it to trial. We'll definitely cover the case. So stay tuned for updates. Make sure to subscribe. Lots more true crime as well as crime content coming. But she's out here walking around the block, right, with the guy's phone, talking ish about him after she killed him. You know what I mean? She didn't care he was dead, the woman wrote. So ready for a confrontation. Akin-Crockett grew up a mile or two away, she said, and spent her childhood cruising around the area by bike with her siblings. So she was well acquainted with this area, right? Because she was familiar with the neighborhood, she didn't fear a potential confrontation. And besides, wearing black stretch pants and a black polo, she reasoned that a very aggressive demeanor might ward off any potential trouble. She took no safety precautions when she and her husband parked nearby at the corner on the afternoon of May 6th. Now, the husband is blind, so she's basically, he's there. Like, his presence, I'm sure, calmed her, comforted her, and all that. But when it comes down to it, she's kind of on her own in a sense. Like, he waited in the car. Dude is legally blind. And he told her, you know, not to do this because it was dangerous and she would stick out like a sore thumb, you know. and this woman would peep what was going on and beat feet and get up out of there. And it kind of sounds like, in a sense, that is indeed what happened, that the woman did make her, that she was looking for her and went inside, because it says, Kristen, against my wishes, jumped out of the car. This is the husband, noting that he is legally blind, and remained in their vehicle as his wife began scouring the neighborhood. By then, neither of the women were at the store. So she walked to the alley identified by the informant and found what she described as a dingy white house with an old roof. On the porch, she saw a woman who appeared to match the informant's description. She had dirty blonde hair and shorts, but there was no pink hoodie, and she had no way to confirm the woman was in fact Becca. Now, she could have walked up on her like, Becca, you know what I mean? But she didn't want to be too reckless. It'll go on to speak on that, you know. She stared at the house, and the woman with the dirty blonde hair remained on the porch for a moment, then went back inside. Moments later, a man emerged, appeared to look at Akin-Crockett, this daughter that's out on this vigilante mission, and then he also went inside. So that's what I'm saying. It seems like they made what was going on. And she watched the house for like 5 minutes, a period that felt like an eternity, weighed her options, but because she couldn't say with absolute certainty that she was looking at the woman described by the informant, she said she didn't want to potentially hassle the wrong person and cause chaos for no reason. And I think that was a wise decision, you know. And she didn't call the authorities either, even though she did talk to an officer before driving to the neighborhood, and the cop told her to dial 911 when she was in the area. But, you know, again, the cops just dropped the ball. Had they listened off top, who knows? They could have got this woman in custody, stopped other horrific things from going on, lives from being lost. And that's not what happened, you know. But given what Akin-Crockett described as a lengthy police response times in Columbus, and the agency prior description of her father's death as non-suspicious, she concluded it wasn't worth calling. And I feel her on that, man. And, you know, in a lot of instances, too, I know a lot of people who look into a lot of these crime stories and stuff, you don't realize, like, a lot of individuals just fear the police or just don't really have faith in them. And it's not because they're doing wrong. I mean, some people, it may be that, but there's good-hearted people who are living law-abiding lives who just don't have faith in their police. You know, like it's a broken cycle in many ways. You know, like there is indeed good police out there, but there's a lot of flucked up police too, and you know, makes a lot of individuals not trust them, not just criminals. You know what I mean? I wasn't sure how seriously they take it, she said. A couple days later, they went to the department's headquarters to obtain a report related to her father's death. While there, she told an officer about the text messages and the camera that might have video of his father with the alleged killer. They said, unfortunately, we would have to wait on toxicology, which we already spoke about that. But later on, she was charged with murder. It wasn't until September, 3 months after the death of a fifth person on June 17th, that Akin-Crockett realized the informant had been right all along, and the woman she'd seen in the alley that very day in which we were speaking of was the same person who was charged with killing her father. The confirmation came from a news report showing Auburn's mugshot after her indictment in the killing of one of the four men. Her hair looked different, but she had the same sunken cheeks and sickly demeanor. And she's sick on the inside as well. You know what I mean? Once again, man, I'm not an arrogant person. I don't just sit here and look down on people. Some people get into getting high. Like it sounds like this girl's father. You know, he gave up years of his life, flucked up family relationships, father-daughter relationship, but, you know, was still known to be a good guy and was trying to fix his life. But ultimately, you know, they never got to fix this relationship fully, you know, because this woman decided she was going to poison, drug him, and kill him. And think about that, man. That's twisted. Even in the streets where people get high, rob people, lives are lost. The streets keep running like a well-oiled machine in many ways. It's still cold-blooded even in that environment, man. She said, though, of this whole situation, she was glad that the woman was finally off the streets, but her frustration has only intensified over what she views as the department's inaction in the days and weeks following her father's death. They had the power to pursue justice right at that moment, but they did not. And that saddens me. When I talk to other people, they're outraged that we had this info, that we presented this info, and it wasn't taken seriously. Somebody else's father, brother, loved one should have not had to die, the husband said. It's a tragedy. And that's facts, man. Like one more life was lost. And again, who knows what other twisted ish she did as well. And the police just dropped the ball, plain and simple. But then, like I said, you see them giving these press releases and stuff like that. Oh, it was a joint effort of these different law enforcement agencies and entities, this, that, and the third. Like, listen, you had someone from Jump Street whose father was killed. They had an informant on the inside giving all the info up, like, why was she not taken seriously? The police flucked up, but they're not going to tell you that in those press releases. So there you have it, man. What a wild story. Thank God this woman's off the street. I feel for this young lady so much, man. She was just getting back her relationship with her father, who, like I pointed out in this informant was pointing out, in the underworld, right? In the streets, people getting high. He was a good guy. And, thank God that woman, this informant, reached out to the daughter, like, again, don't judge people just because of where they are in life. People are people. Don't you ever forget that. So there you have it. That's the story of this Columbus, Ohio, alleged serial killer ex-worker basehead Rebecca Auburn, set to go to trial. Stay tuned for updates. Subscribe to the channel. Again, let's talk in the comments. If you're new, that's what this channel is all about, hearing from the people. So I'll catch you on the next video, and I'm up out of here, you guys. Peace.